Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and with me is my talented co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners who are past, present, and new.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Due to our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
And with that, let's get right into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew.
Oh, what brew are you going to enjoy this morning?
A nice hot cocoa.
Ooh, hot cocoa. Perfect for the stories that I have coming. And before I start our first story, any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the asshole for wanting to pay for babysitting my own daughter? My 39 male, wife 34 female, and I live in a suburban house with our daughter, 10 female Emily. Our neighbor next door, 48 male Walter, is a single father with 2 daughters, 14 female and 12 female.
Okay.
We have been living here for a little more than 2 years. My wife really likes watching scary movies, but I have never enjoyed them. I get too scared and I end up having a bad time, so I prefer to avoid them. Her friends sometimes go with her to the more popular ones, but she also likes older indies and foreign horror movies. She has always had a hard time finding people that have this niche interest, and that is why it was such a big deal when we met Walter and found out he also shares this tendency. They very quickly started to make plans to watch movies together. I was invited to be a part of this but refused. I prefer to just stay at home babysitting Emily and Walter's daughters while they are in their cinephile reunions. Sometimes they go to movie theaters, but other times they just stay at Walter's place watching stuff at his home cinema. They usually have to go to another town in order to catch a specific function or some weird movie, so it is normal for them to come back very late. They eventually started doing stuff outside of watching movies, like going out for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Walter invited all of us, including the kids, to go with him to a restaurant that a friend of him owned, but I said no because it was too expensive. I don't like that kind of places because I feel they are a waste of money and didn't think the kids would enjoy it either.
Okay.
I insisted on staying with the kids and let the 2 of them go be themselves. This has become a regular thing, and it is in a way a good deal for me because Walter pays for my wife's dinner, and she can no longer complain about me not taking her to fancy restaurants.
Walter's doing something else with your wife.
It gets better.
No!
As both their movie and dinner nights had become so common, I have grown a little tired of the burden of constantly babysitting the girls.
Yeah.
I talked to my wife and Walter about it, and he explained that he usually does not like leaving his daughters with babysitters. He says he is really comfortable knowing that they are being watched by an experienced father like me instead of some teenage girl. He nevertheless agreed that it was too much of a load for me and offered to start paying me a standard babysitter fee each time he goes out with my wife.
No!
I thought that was a fair approach to the issue, but my wife was fully against it. She says I should not be paid for babysitting my own daughter, nor the daughters of a close friend of our family like Walter. We have been arguing about this, but she insists on this notion, and it not open to change. She even gets mad every time I talk to her about this. Walter promised me that he will convince her, but he does not seem to have been able to do so either. Am I the
Oh my lord, this story is terrible. Oh no.
I thought you would enjoy this as our first story of the day.
This is spicy. No. Oh god. What's this? Did he say his name?
No, he doesn't say
He's
his
just
name.
OP. I get to refer to him as OP.
You just get to refer to him as OP
You're being
by Walter.
Walter. Oh no. Walter's you, homie. No, this story is terrible.
I feel like, to me, like the poster and his wife have a very close emotional connection.
Sure.
And she's trying to find this emotional connection with someone else because And here's the thing. It stopped being just sharing hobbies and being something more intimate the moment that she started having a bunch of dinners with him to fancy restaurants that Walter, and this is a small concession. I can understand if he doesn't like scary movies, but you can concede if your wife wants to go to a nice restaurant every once in a while.
Even and that's true, but even if you don't like scary movies, you two can get on a rotation. Right? Like, if you really don't like it that much, I'm sure you guys can come up with a situation where maybe you watch this movie with her because you're doing things together. The whole point is to do them together and figure out what makes you guys like tick. But you searching outside for your neighbor, like Walter, and then Walter's gonna sit there and you some more and tell you that he's working on it with your wife. This isn't a conversation you have with Walter. This is a conversation you have with your wife.
But he's going to another man to talk to his wife.
Talk to my wife to make sure that she has you pay for me watching your children while you have dinner dates with my wife?
I think it's almost demeaning how he says he thinks it's a waste of money for him to spend a nice dinner on his wife.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. So it kind of, what it really sounds like is she's over their marriage. If you're comfortable with another person taking your partner out for dinner and spending that much time with another person, there's something wrong.
And he's single. Walter's single.
See, Walter's the winner in this scenario. Good for you, Walter. Terrible for the family he's ruining, but...
So, what is your verdict for this poster?
I'm so upset about this story. I feel like it's the poster's fault for letting this all happen to his life. In general, you should have stomped on Walter. Bring his kids out. Stomp on him in front of his children. Don't do that. Obviously, don't do that. But, like, oh, this has all the red flags of, like
it's got red flags of a marriage that's potentially failing.
Oh, God.
When the father has been
okay with chilling at the house and watching
just the kids, and now he wants the guy who's taking his wife out to fancy dinners
he's not
to
even
pay
thinking
him as a
about
babysitter.
The repercussions of what might be happening when they're on these dates and watching these movies. He's just going, I just want to get that little bit of cheddar.
So, your verdict?
I'm telling you, the guy, the father, for letting all of this happen in his life is the asshole.
And Reddit all agrees. They say that he's the asshole. She's going to different places because him as a husband doesn't seem to be wanting to even be included on the things that she's interested in, whether it's something such as scary movies or as simple as just doing dinners.
Sure, we all do things with our partners that we don't necessarily like, but it's because it's the give and the take of it. That's what matters. Not so much you learning to how to avoid to do things and then you hand off your wife to the neighbor? Nah, man. Nope.
This is a very interesting first story.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
So, going to our next story. Am I the ass for blasting Disney music?
Let's do this.
Hello. I, 16 female, have an older brother, 19 male, who's one of those prank YouTubers and TikTokers.
Oh.
He's been doing this kind of content since 2017, first on YouTube, then expanding to TikTok for short form around 2020. He's decently popular with children and makes some pretty good money from it. It's annoying for me and I hate it. As his little sister, I'm constantly having a camera shoved in my face, even when I'm busy. He's pranked me by pretending to delete my school projects off my laptop, throwing out my homework, study material, and once fabricated a fake report card that he gave to my tech illiterate parents, which got me grounded for a month even after I proved that my grades are good because they never go back on their punishments. He has also come to my work to surprise me and prank me, which has gotten me in trouble with my manager until they moved me to working in the back and not up front with the customers because he'd come in so much. With my money, I recently bought a Bluetooth speaker, and whenever I see him with his stupid camera, I blast whatever Disney music I can. Let It Go. We Don't Talk About Bruno. Anything I can, because Disney is vicious with copyright and the footage is useless.
Wow.
She's a smart girl.
Very smart.
He's tried talking to me about it before, usually on camera to, quote unquote, work out our issue, which means me stopping so that he can go back to making money off pranking me. Because I'm apparently very popular with his audience. He's been slowly losing viewers and followers, which he is blaming me and my speaker for. My parents are taking his side as he's providing for us, and he's the golden child. So, am I the
Oh.
There's a small little edit she put at the bottom. Please stop telling me to expose him or make a call out post and exposing him. I don't want and will not make a permanent social media account anywhere, so that isn't possible.
Okay. Well, this girl sounds very sensible for a 16, so we'll start with that. But honestly, that's a really rough situation. The tail end of that tale is you're telling me that this child, this 19-year-old child, is the provider for this family. So there's more thrown onto not only the girl, but the boy, because I'm willing to bet that he knows that he's in that situation, right?
Oh, yes.
So that's a whole messed up, like, dichotomy of issues in this family alone, right?
Oh, and apparently this has been going on for a while.
Yeah, well, you said like 2017 or something like that.
Correct.
So
And she's 16 now.
that's
so.
terrible that she's had to live through that. More power to her for trying to take back her life. That I don't know if people understand that when they do these things outside of social media, there's people that pay real life consequences for your actions. So for her, good for her for doing that. Bad for the parents for putting those kids in that situation to even begin with, because I'm sure he feels pressure if he's now losing subscribers and viewers and money. You know, obviously the family's gonna feel that. Like, that's just a nasty situation.
So I have a couple of her little updates from her comments to other respondees. And it says, I have my job so I can save money, and I have some friends who also want me to move out at 18, and we plan to find an apartment and live together. So she's got plans to get out of this bad situation. Good. It says, my parents are trying their best. They're immigrants, and me and my brother are first generation.
Okay.
Before his channel, our family struggled a lot, so they see his pranks as something to endure so that we don't return to how we were before. My brother sucks. My parents are doing their best, even if it's misguided. And then she also adds in another post where she says when she was 11 or 12, she did like being in the videos quite a lot until it got to be too much. The pranks got crueler. And since I used to love being in the videos so much, at least that's what her brother said, her opinion no longer matters. And that it's cheaper to buy the speaker because apparently her brother has gone and destroyed these speakers to try and keep doing his pranks on her.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
It's
what?
Because she's got her own job. She's just been buying these Bluetooth speakers to keep sort of deflecting him from being cruel with these pranks on her.
Oh man. This is just a really rough story. Well, I never thought I'd say I miss Walter, but now I do. But
Walter comes back again to help another relationship.
Hey man, Walter, come here. I know someone. I guess. Yeah, that's really bad. I hope for the girl that when she gets 18, she gets out of that situation. I hope they understand what they're doing to their family. This is like long-term scarring stuff. So
I think I know your verdict, but I'd still like to hear it.
Obviously, the brother is the here, but I think it goes beyond just him. It's the family in general for letting this all like partake.
And you're correct. Reddit also agrees the brother is the asshole, and the sister who's posting this insert is not the asshole.
She's also being very courteous and kind to them because she's not like completely ousting the brother, because she could definitely just ruin him altogether and the family if she really wanted to. Like
hands down.
She really is just like taking it on the chin for them.
So we actually have an update on this too.
I love updates. Hit me.
So she posted, I didn't expect my post to blow up like it did, but I thought everyone would like to know that I'm safe. A
Okay.
lot of people actually worried about her safety because
Well, sure.
she did in the comments put down that he's been destroying her speakers to
That's
try and keep,
craziness.
and with, of course, the pranks getting crueler. She says, for those who thought my brother would try and destroy my speaker, they were right. He destroyed multiple, but I kept buying more as they were cheap, and I have a lot of money saved up for when I eventually move out. I also told my best friend's mom everything. Before, all that she knew was that my brother made content online, which is why I always go to my friend's house and not the other way around. Honestly, I think this girl was probably being very smart and just trying to protect her friends. Can you imagine if her pranks
Sure.
went really hard on her?
Hey, Becky, you can't come over because my brother's a dish.
It says, I practically live there anyway, so she very quickly agreed that I can stay until I turn 18. I bet you her parents probably, I guess for us, we don't really know where she lives for
Thank
it to be
goodness.
okay. A lot of states actually let kids move out at 16 if they get their own independency instated by the state. It says, while packing my stuff, I started participating in pranks again to keep my brother and my parents happy so they wouldn't be suspicious. I kept telling my brother about an epic prank I was planning and a few clips of me talking about it where in the videos and fans got really hyped for it. The prank was me taking the last of the stuff that was still in my room and using a lot of printer paper and tape to write notes all over the walls, bed, desk, and everywhere that said things along the lines of have fun without me, I'm not coming back, I hate your pranks, and other comments.
This girl's a legend.
I doubt he'll post the video, but I like to imagine he turned purple seeing it. I'm currently at my best friend's house, and we are working things out legally so that I can stay without my parents claiming I was kidnapped or anything. I also considered getting a restraining order against my brother, and I'm looking for a new job, hopefully with better pay so he can't try to see me while I'm at work. I still won't be making any social media or exposing my brother. He can lose his fans on his own without my help, and I can stay anonymous and out of the public eye. Thank you, everyone who gave me advice. I really appreciate it.
Wow. This sounds like a Matilda of her time.
Oh, definitely.
Like she rose above the clatter, and good for her. I mean, that's a great update. I'm sorry that she had to live through that. The brother's a wiener jacket. Good for her.
Well, from that, let us go to our next story. Am I the for refusing to do makeup on a client because of their skin?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a baity type of title. I look forward to hearing the rest of it.
Hi, all. I'm 34 female and I live in the U.S. I'm a professional makeup artist and I work for a small company that provides makeup to people for things like weddings, prom, photo shoots, etc. Basically, I do their makeup for them. I've had this job for the past 10 years.
Wow.
First of all, let me clarify that this has nothing to do with skin tone or race. I don't want to mislead with my title.
It was misleading. Very misleading.
This was over skin texture/condition. I had a client yesterday who I assume was 16 to 18 that wanted makeup done for a school dance. She made the appointment through the company I work for, and I didn't meet her or see her at all before she came in to get her makeup done. Well, long story short, her skin was in terrible condition, and I didn't feel comfortable putting makeup on it. She had a lot of open wounds on her face, which I assume were acne scars, some of them with literal dried blood smeared on her face. She also had a rash around her eyes and mouth. I still don't know what it was, but it was light red patches around her eyes and mouth. I was genuinely worried she might have a skin condition or something that's contagious. And her face had blood on it, which I don't want on my tools.
Sure.
Yes, my company sanitizes everything, and I know if it's done properly, nothing should spread. But to be honest, it still weirded me out to put makeup brushes over her blood and what I think was a rash, then later use those same brushes on other clients. It just didn't sit well with me. I respect her for
That
making
makes
that
sense.
choice. I also don't think makeup on her skin would be good for her in general. Foundation going into open wounds isn't necessarily recommended and might have made her skin even worse. I tried to be very nice to the girl and explained that due to there being open wounds on her face, I couldn't do her makeup because of risk of infection. I made it seem like my only concern was her own skin health, since I didn't want to seem mean and basically saying, I don't want you spreading diseases around to my clients. I was very careful with my words and honestly did my absolute best to not offend her.
Okay.
But I still had to be firm in the fact that I wasn't comfortable doing her makeup. The company offered her a full refund and even offered to waive the cancellation cost, but she insisted she needed her makeup done. My manager ended up sort of siding with me and not forcing me to do it, but talked to her and asked if she'd be okay with just eyeshadow and not full face, which I still didn't really want to do, but if she agreed to that, I would have. She kept insisting on a full face and made a big scene, ended up calling me a bitch and a Karen, then eventually stormed out. Should I have done her makeup and not said anything? Am I the asshole?
Woo! I'll be upfront. I know nothing about makeup and what it does to the skin. I only know that people say that if you have a bunch of stuff, you maybe shouldn't be powdering it on your face. That's about the extent of my knowledge of makeup. So I like that the OP was kind of trying to be as nice as she could to the young lady, right? She's like 16, 17, whatever. So I'm sure that it didn't feel good to be told that they can't do a service that you really wanted them to do that you were going to pay for. So that kind of sucks for her, but definitely she is not the OP is not the asshole in this situation, because I think I would be worried too about contamination if you don't feel comfortable doing a service because someone could potentially have something that's, could be spread or you could get. I understand just saying no, and it wasn't like she was rude about it, right?
Oh no, definitely not. She was trying to really, it seemed like, form it in a way that it was her concern, and it looked like the makeup artist, because a lot of makeup artists have to look at the conditions of the skin to even decide.
Okay.
And a lot of the times, it's not good for your skin. If you have open wounds, you shouldn't be packing a bunch of powder into it. You're essentially, yes, you could have an infection, you could stop yourself from healing correctly, and you could potentially leave bad scars on you. I mean, in general, they say women shouldn't be packing on makeup just because your skin needs to breathe.
Yeah.
It's just like any other part of your body. It needs oxygen to keep healthy. And mind you, every woman's use on makeup is their choice. This is just what I've learned over time with my knowledge.
I can just imagine this, like, in my mind, the makeup artist is some old lady, and she's like, I'm gonna try to cover the blood with all the all the powder, and
No.
no.
If anything, I think her way of trying to handle it was nice.
Sure.
I think this girl is probably really young, and if she does have bad skin condition, I think it would have actually been preferable had the makeup artist suggested that she go to a dermatologist.
Sure.
So that she could have gotten it checked out.
You know how it is at that age. Everything is super important. Like, everything.
Yes.
So I can understand maybe what's going through this kid's mind is, I got to get this makeup on because I got to take these pictures, or I'm going to this event. Everything is the most important thing every single scenario for them. So I can understand her having I hate that she's young. That's just the way it is. A kid is going to have a bad reaction to being told no, especially if they're paying for something. So I feel bad for both parties, because I'm sure that also probably wasn't amazing life experience for her. I'm betting she was probably very embarrassed to have someone sit there and go, look, I can't touch this.
But does that make the makeup artist an asshole?
No, I think that she did what she could. There's in no world is the makeup artist an asshole in this situation.
And all of Reddit agrees.
Yeah.
They say that the poster is not the asshole. There was a suggestion though in the comments that the poster actually responded to, and it was, couldn't the girl have brought in her own tools for her to use?
Is that something they would still be comfortable in doing as long as it wasn't their tools?
I think that depends on the company, and from what the poster was saying, there's a lot of liabilities in using other people's tools. A lot of
Okay,
the
that
stuff
makes sense.
is
Yeah,
tested and
sure. That she could be blamed for something that some
correct.
product wasn't good, and yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it. All right.
So there's a lot of really weird gray area there. Yes, she could have used the girl's tools, possibly the girl's makeups, because the thing is, if you're still putting it potentially in an open wound, she couldn't use their makeup.
Sure.
But at the same time, if something did go wrong, the company would be liable for any type of medical charges if something got worse.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely understand that.
Well, let's go from some makeup
Mm.
to some family issues.
Family issues are always fun.
Am I the asshole for calling the cops on my dad's friend's wife?
My dad's friend's wife. Okay, I got it now.
Sorry in advance for the long post. This is very long. Backstory. My dad has this friend, let's call him Jimmy. He's been my dad's friend since before I was even born. We're so close, I even refer to him as Uncle Jimmy. Jimmy has some really serious health issues, severe diabetes, and heart issues. Diabetes causes his legs and feet to swell, and it's so bad he has a really difficult time walking and moving around in general. When I graduated high school, I moved out of state and lost contact with him. We hadn't spoken for around 8 to 9 months as his health was deteriorating, and despite reaching out, his wife always answered and said it wasn't a good time. When I visited my dad over the holidays, I figured I'd drop by Jimmy's place and pay him a visit. I called him several times over the course of my trip, but never got an answer. On the second to last day, I decided just to drive over there. There wasn't a car in the driveway, but something just compelled me to knock on the door. I knocked and stood there for a few minutes. I heard mumbling and groaning, and since no one was answering, I grabbed the spare key from its hiding place and unlocked the door. I found my Uncle Jimmy laying on the bathroom, covered in his own urine and crying. I immediately called an ambulance and tried to figure out what happened and where his wife was. Apparently, he had fallen, and his wife told him he was too fat to pick up, so she just took their young daughter, 8 years old, and went shopping. After the ambulance came, I called my dad to tell him what was going on, and he told me that he knew about Jimmy's wife, but told me not to intervene anymore because Jimmy had to be the one to stand up for himself. My dad told me since I had left, things had gotten really bad. She was only cooking him high carb / sugar meals, then refusing to give him his insulin, or only giving him a small dose that had little to no effect. She would leave him sitting in his chair and wouldn't help him to the bathroom or to bed at night. He's on CPAP at night, and she would turn it off because it bothered her. This was far beyond his wife leaving him on the ground after he had fallen. I lost it on my dad, and I told him I was calling the cops, and I couldn't believe he hadn't. I called, and they took my statement, and they tried to take my Uncle Jimmy's at the hospital. But I honestly think he was too afraid to make one. My dad refused to make one. Jimmy's wife is out on bail now, and my dad is still mad at me, saying I am an a-hole for blowing up Jimmy's life and Jimmy's daughter's life. And if Jimmy really was worried, he shouldn't have been such a and just called the cops himself. I think I did the right thing. It was insane what she was doing to him, and I can't understand why my dad is so upset with me. So Reddit, am I the asshole for calling the cops?
That is a severe story. I'm wow. That is terrible. And no, she in no way is the asshole in this. Sometimes the hardest things in life to do are the right things, and it would have been easy enough for her to just turn around after she heard mumbling after she rang on a doorbell and just walked away like her father did to his friend. Like That's terrible.
You know, based on all the abuse, it could be that the wife was hoping that.
You would die?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
it's
mean, if you're telling me
awful.
she's not loading insulin shots, turning off a CPAP machine, that's almost akin to like suffocation in what I understand, right? I mean, that
Potential
helps you breathe, correct?
attempting murder.
Like, yeah, no. Hey, babe, I'm just gonna not give you anything you need. You want the sugar?
So you are definitely in line with Reddit. They also think she is not the If anything, not only is the wife very much the asshole, but so is her dad for not doing anything
Sure,
for his
that's your
friend.
That's your friend, man. A longtime friend, apparently.
And just to say that he's essentially a wussy and can't stand up for himself. I mean, as a friend, you would need to be that rock. Sometimes a friend needs that.
That's a
So
pretty severe story.
I have an update
Oh,
on some of this.
yeah,
It says my Uncle Jimmy is getting the help he needs.
good.
He's still in the hospital and has a long way to go, but the nurses told me when they get his health stable enough, he has a bed waiting at a facility for people that is used to taking on cases of severe diabetes. His wife is out on bail. A family friend took their daughter, and the wife is to have no contact with her daughter or Jimmy until the case is settled in court.
Good.
Thank you all for caring, and thank you all for taking the time to comment.
Hopefully, he stays well away from his killer. Is not killer, but I mean, that sounds like attempted murder.
That definitely is.
I'm not trying to slander anybody, but Jesus, that story is crazy.
I think it's very much unspoken of all the abuse that people who are ill or elderly tend to have.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's something that I think a large portion of our society prefer to overlook.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that somebody, even though, and it must have been hard for this girl to hear her father say that she should just mind her own business, to try and do the right thing because she loves this family friend that to her she sees as an uncle.
Yeah. I think that the dad, hopefully he comes to terms with his shame, because that's a whole other thing. Not only did you bail on your friend who really, it sounded like, needed him, then he turned and then he basically blamed it on his daughter for doing the right thing. Like,
it's a little crazy.
that was a severe story.
So let's bring this back to something a little bit more light of humor.
Yeah, let's do that.
Am I the asshole for wanting a child-free wedding?
Oh yes, you are, but I want to hear more. And no, I don't think so. Let's just hear the story.
All right. I, 22 female, am getting married soon. Since my fiance and I are child-free, and because we plan to have alcohol at our wedding, we decided to have a child-free wedding with the age cutoff at 21.
Okay.
This requirement so far has gone over well with most of our invitees. Most of our invitees don't even have kids anyway, so it doesn't make a difference for them. I do have one friend, Mel, 20 female,
Oh, Mel.
that I had to exclude from the wedding. After realizing that pretty much everyone else from the same social circle has been invited except her. She confronted me and demanded to know why she wasn't invited. I tried to explain that it wasn't personal and that I just didn't want to have to worry about underage drinking going on under my nose on my wedding day. But Mel kept accusing me of being a bad friend. She argued that since we had drank together before, it shouldn't be such a big deal, but I told her that it was different since we were both underaged at the time. I was 20 and she was 18, 19-ish when we started drinking together. Now, as an adult, I feel I have a responsibility to prevent underage drinking. And as a bride, I feel like I have the right to a child-free wedding. Mel is unconvinced and keeps talking bad about me behind my back to our mutual friends and making snarky comments about me feeling superior. I don't see why she can't just relax and let me have my wedding day the way I like. So Reddit, am I the
You know, it sounds like there's a lot more playing in that background than just this. It just feels to me that there's another story beyond the wedding, like maybe why she's, I'm not saying vindictive, but I guess I'll get back to the point. No, she is not the asshole in this situation, because she does have the right to say, even if there wasn't a childless wedding, okay? Even if the excuse was, or the reasoning was that I don't want this person at my wedding, that should be the end of it. right? But in this case, she's 20. She doesn't want underage drinking at her wedding. It's a little weird that she already kind of drank with her prior to this. That's why I say it kind of feels like there's maybe something juicy. Like maybe Mel slept with maybe someone's boyfriend that who now is husband. Who knows? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it sounds weird.
Well, so you're saying you don't think she's the
If the question is if she's not the asshole for not wanting underage drinking, so a childless wedding, yeah, childless wedding, child-free wedding, then no, she's not the
Reddit doesn't agree.
No!
They think she's the asshole. So here's a little thing that I read that I think kind of opened my eyes to this.
Oh no.
You can be right in your choices, but you can still be the asshole for it.
Okay.
And the reason being is
I like that. Okay.
she does have the right to have a child-free wedding. But that doesn't mean that the way that she's approaching it or seeing it doesn't make her the asshole. They're only 1 year difference. This girl is 20 years old and the poster is 21 years old. It's a 1 year difference. To consider someone who's a year difference from you as a child, the moment that you turn 18, everybody's an adult.
Sure. Okay, I can agree with that.
She's no longer a child. All of Reddit agrees on this. They think that the bride is turning into a bridezilla and having a superiority complex just because she is legally allowed to drink. And that's about it.
Okay. So it's like, that's a weird flex, but I guess at that age, you know, all right, I can understand it from that point of view, but I also am like, it's her day. She can make whatever weird rules. Sorry, not her day, their day. It's you and your partner's day. You guys can make whatever weird rules you want for the wedding.
And that's why I think a lot of posters, they said, this is your wedding. You can make this choice, but right. You can still be the asshole about it.
Okay. All right. I guess that's an interesting way to look at things.
It brought a new viewpoint to how I read Am I the Asshole?
Sure. Like, he
Stories.
Definitely is the asshole, but they're right. Okay. No. All right. Nice little gray find. I like that.
Ah, I got you there.
Yeah, you did.
So, unfortunately, you struck out.
Yeah, it's okay.
And for our last story, am I the asshole for refusing to allow my twin to be a bridesmaid at my wedding?
Ooh. Yes, you are. We've been twins. No, let's listen to the story.
I, 25 female, have a fraternal twin sister and am getting married next fall. We were very close to growing up until high school. She was an outgoing, bubbly cheerleader, and I was a shy, nerdy bookworm, so she ditched me for the popular kids. She didn't actively pick on me, but she'd stand by with her head down and do nothing when they bullied me. She would talk to and hang out with me at home as if nothing was wrong, and when at school or at the mall where kids at our school were likely to be seen, she didn't want to be seen with me.
Wow.
When we turned 16, she had a big bash, but I didn't have any friends, so I didn't want to try and have a party. Our parents were making her include me, but she discreetly offered me $100 to pretend I was sick. I took the money because I really didn't want to go to the party, where I'd at best be ignored and worst picked on. We went to separate colleges across the country from each other. She tried to keep in touch, but I ignored her because I was very traumatized at losing my sister and best friend. I would be polite to her at home during school breaks, but kept her at arm's length, understandably.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't want her to be a bridesmaid, let alone maid of honor. My parents thought it'd be a good compromise to have her just be a regular bridesmaid. My big from my sorority would be my maid of honor, and my fellow littles who had the same big would be my bridesmaids. I reluctantly said she could be a guest at the wedding, but not a bridesmaid. If it were entirely up to me, I wouldn't invite her at all. But that would cause more drama in my family than it's worth. I told them, but what would other people think if she was seen with me? She cried. She never apologized. She thinks because it was so long ago, I should let bygones be bygones because she was young and immature. And my parents agree with her. But I had to be in therapy for years because of her. Why should I have someone as a bridesmaid who thinks they are better than me? Am I the asshole?
I guess initial response to that is no. And it's because it's your wedding. Like, I'm not even talking about family or whoever. If it's your thing, right? You have the right to not invite anyone you wish. That's the basic like element I'm trying to push here is regardless of the reasonings, it does not matter if you don't want this person at your so and so event or wedding. It really doesn't matter. When you're an adult, you have the right to do those things. You don't owe anyone anything. Um, the fact that she went ahead and invited her just so she could participate at to come to the wedding,
As a guest.
like that should have been enough, and she should have understood that from her sister's point of view. Maybe still things are raw because it still sounds like it. She had to go to years of therapy, right, to get over all of this. Maybe someday she just lets her sister, the OP, let her sister come to her when she's ready for reconciliation, or and she may never come to that on her own. But that's not up to her sister to push that or to guilt her into inviting her to a wedding and to be a bridesmaid.
I think for here in this situation, there's such a rift between the two of them. Clearly, our poster was a victim of bullying.
Sure.
And with her twin, which you would think that twins would, and they had a very close relationship up until high school, would essentially watched her sister get bullied and picked on and didn't do anything for it. I mean, that in itself could cause huge breakdowns with any types of relationship.
Sure.
For her parents to essentially tell her to get over it, I think is a bit callous.
I think they're only probably looking at it from like, what? How bad could it possibly have been? You know how parents go like, just let it go, and you're like, but that was a traumatizing event in my life. Like, thank you so much for just telling me to let it go.
Bullying is really bad.
Sure.
And
if you've never been through it, then you don't know what we're talking about. But yes, bullying is unfortunately a very like prevalent piece of just growing up. It just happens.
And either you're the type of person to be bullied, you're the type of person who is the bully, or you're the person who watched.
Yeah, you let it happen, but that makes you no better than the bully. Because you just watching it means you're partaking and saying something's okay. So
but
that's terrible.
On this last story, it's just sad that unfortunately bygones can't be bygones, and somebody couldn't grow up and at least apologize for their inactions.
Sure. So, as our story comes to a close, let me share with you something to reflect on. You see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We will be regularly posting on Tuesdays and Fridays.
What do we say? And remember, what was it again? And remember, if you post, maybe we'll see it on the internet.